If you think you felt a great disturbance in the force, you're not wrong. Ed Gross and me, Mark A. Altman, have a new oral history coming out this July from St. Martin's Press. It's Secrets of the Force, the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of the Star Wars saga. So wherever you buy books, audio, and video, pick it up today, pre-order, and you can learn the secrets of the Force. And don't miss our oral history of Star Trek in stores now. And of course, nobody does it better. The complete oral history of James Bond in digital, hardcover, paperback, and audio. That is all.
If you're a fan of the 430 movie, you'll love Best Movies Never Made, hosted by myself, Josh Miller.
And Steven Scarlatta,
where we explore some of the greatest movies never made, like E.T. 2,
Johnny Quest,
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian,
and Halloween 3D.
New episodes available every other Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're a fan of Inglorious Treksperts, you're going to love Treksperts Briefing Room, a new series.
Briefing Room? What is that?
I was about to explain, then you interrupted me.
I'm sorry.
It's curated audio commentaries of classic Star Trek episodes, from the original series all the way through Enterprise. You're going to love it as we explore the behind-the-scenes making of all these wonderful Star Trek episodes with cast and crew that you would never expect to hear doing audio commentaries on Star Trek.
Sounds like fun.
It will be. And you can find it on the Inglorious Treksperts podcast feed and on the new Treksperts Briefing podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Let's go see
what's out there. Welcome to the 430 movie. This is Mockumentary Week, and I'm Mark Altman, and I'm here with all your favorite 430 movie hosts, including Mr. Monday, Steve Melching.
Hi there. I'm really hoping to learn something this week.
Tuesday, it's Darren Doctorman.
I'm really hoping to learn something from Steve this week.
Wednesday, I'm still floored by last week, and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, but we'll continue. Mr. Ashley Edward Miller.
I didn't kill her. I didn't do it. Oh, hi, Mark.
So, and I'm, of course, Mark Altman. I have to tell you, I know we finished recording last week. It's already out there in the podcast universe.
Pot whistle. Yeah.
We missed a hugely important Humphrey Bogart movie that we didn't talk about. And I mentioned to Steve, In a Lonely Place with Gloria Graham, that, you know, where he plays a writer with anger issues who thinks he may have murdered someone.
He's in a lonely place because no one picked him for the 430 movie.
And you think we could have, related to that movie, but it's such a great film, and it's one of those films that when it came out, I don't think it was particularly successful, but now, you know, it over the years has become a really beloved Humphrey Bogart classic. I don't know how we missed it.
Because we missed it. We don't get them all.
We missed the boat, man.
We're only human.
We missed the freaking boat.
We're only human here on the 430 movie.
Never get off the boat.
Get off the boat.
So this week we're doing mockumentaries, and you know I have to say, you know it's interesting in terms of defining what a mockumentary is. You know, certainly I think when you watch TV, you know, there's the faux documentary, but is it really a mockumentary? Like The Office is a super popular, beloved show done in the faux documentary format. But, you know, is it a mockumentary? The same way the wonderful show, What We Do in the Shadows, terrific show based on the movie, is also done in that faux documentary style. And of course, I would even say, and I've been doing a rewatch, and I know Steve has too, of the Larry Sanders Show. You know, does that fall because it's creating, is it a mockumentary because it's a talk show as though it was airing alongside Jay Leno?
I would argue not, because no one in Larry Sanders acknowledges that there's a camera there.
You know what? That's a really interesting point. So, however, if we are just going to talk a little bit about television, both seasons of American Vandal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. ESPN's like well, it's not really ESPN's, like the 30 on 30 by the guy who did American Vandal. which had like, you know, Rocky like solves the Cold War in Rocky IV.
And there's all of Chris Lilly's shows like Summer Heights High and Angry Boys. Those are faux documentary limited series.
So why are
There's
those not
the great
shows?
Documentary Now on IFC,
Sure.
which is a very mainstream documentary parody show and is fabulous if you've never seen it.
Now, if I wish that Cobra Kai actually happened, does that count as a mockumentary? No? Fuck. I just used a big word,
it's
didn't
mocking
I?
you. It
Yeah.
means it's mocking you.
Mocking me.
So are we define mockumentary as a movie that is told in documentary style, but is not a documentary, it's not real, that it's fictional? Is that how we define mockumentary?
I think so. I think we almost have to.
And they don't have to be funny, I think.
not at all.
It's just
I don't
a
think
faux
so.
documentary. Some of them can be dramatic. Some of them are full-on parodies.
Some of them can attempt to be funny, but not.
That's right. Some of them can be scary. Ooh, blah.
Some of them can be so clever it blurs the line, and some viewers find it difficult to understand if it's real or fake.
Right.
Those are some of my favorite ones.
Right.
Right.
Gaslight, the motion picture.
I have to say, I'm really enjoying watching Larry Sanders again on HBO Max.
Larry
Man,
Sanders
that show was
just
so
about the
good.
greatest show ever made.
It's
so
definitely
great.
one of my top 10.
You know,
certainly
it's
of the
funny
90s.
because when we talk about our favorite shows like Star Trek and The Wire and, you know, Breaking Bad and all these great shows, you know, Arrested Development, I very rarely mention Larry Sanders Show, but it is. Larry Sanders Show is one of the great TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
And now that it's more available than ever, I have the DVD set, but now that it's on HBO Max, you have no excuse for not
No, you
watching
have
the
no
show if
excuse.
you've never seen it.
None.
Treat yourself. It's a delight.
It's funny because HBO Max is not a great streaming service for movies, but I think, you know, in terms of access to the HBO library and a lot of TV, it's actually quite good, you know, especially with the addition of Babylon 5 now. And I find myself watching a lot more TV on HBO Max than I do movies.
Yeah.
And that may just be because I own so many movies that I like, you know, so I don't need to watch it on streaming. But I mean, what do you watch? Like, what's your streaming service of choice? Do you have them all? Do you have some? Do you have none?
I have all of them.
Yeah.
I think I probably watch more stuff on Netflix.
Yeah, because they sign your checks. You have to say that.
They do. I love Netflix. They are the best service. They have only the highest quality programming.
Watch them again and again
And again.
I probably watch more Netflix than any other because they have by far the best interface. Like I find HBO Max's interface
Impossible.
Awful.
difficult,
Right.
very difficult.
Awful.
And
Not as bad as
yeah.
Peacock, but pretty bad.
Yeah.
Peacock is terrible. Disney
Hulu's
Plus
pretty
is
good.
pretty good. Hulu's pretty good.
I like Hulu. I like Peacock because it has all these terrible reality shows on them that I love.
But can we agree that Paramount Plus blows?
Oh, the worst.
Oh,
It's so hard to find anything on Paramount.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, boy, Paramount manages to screw up everything, don't they?
Much in,
They really
much
do.
in the spirit of Ashley talking about Netflix, I love Paramount Plus. The selection of shows is great, and the quality is amazing.
No, it's
I
funny.
highly
because
recommend it.
you know who has the worst? I think the worst navigation of all of them, which you would think, given what geniuses they are on every other aspect of their business,
Amazon.
and dominate the tech sector. What is Amazon?
Amazon.
Oh, Amazon. Amazon is terrible. Yes.
And the way
absolutely.
that they do seasons, each season has its own bucket.
Yeah.
That you just don't go to the show. You have to go to the different. It's weird.
I
And
was trying to go back to a show on Amazon that I had watched a couple episodes for, and I could not freaking find it again. Like a lot of the other channels have like continue watching as its whole separate thing, but Amazon, it took forever to find the stupid
It's like
thing.
Well, I take it back. I love Amazon. I have no problems with Amazon. I think it's great.
They just need a better interface.
It's
I,
like
for
it's
one,
like-
welcome
it's like
our
walking-
new robot overlords.
It's like walking into the back of a shoe store and trying to find shoes in thousands of boxes that look identical.
People, I still think that if somebody could perfect the navigation where it is like a VR, like walking into a video store where you can go in and like, you know, look at stuff as though you're in a video store and look at the movies on the shelves in these faux shelves broken up, and then you click on it. I to emulate the video store experience.
The kids would never understand it. They would say, what is this?
They would just wander around and rack up late fees, and it'd be great.
Yeah. As long as there's a part of the user interface where you get to stand and wait for somebody to return a video.
Right.
It's just so funny. Yeah,
it just kind of shows up at random. You're like, oh God. And you just grab it.
Sometimes you start watching it and it's in the end credits. So you have to rewind the damn thing.
Or sometimes you watch it and it looks like somebody overdubbed it with like homemade pornography. You're like, what is happening in this movie?
I think it's so funny. I think it's so funny that, you know, we always pride ourselves on our honesty and we give you the straight dope here on the 430 movie. And it's like, oh, you guys work for Netflix. He works for CBS Paramount, and I have a show on Amazon. So it's like, no, they're all great. We love them all. But Peacock, man, that sucks.
Screw Peacock.
You know what channel? Well, you know what channel we've been watching a lot of is Pluto TV.
Really?
Pluto TV has all these great the old Johnny Carsons
with commercials.
Yeah, but that's the only way to see a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I get that. And I actually, you know, I get a kick out of like, they have the James Bond channel and stuff, which I just watch because I just think it's cool that there's a James Bond channel. But I can't watch AVOD. I can't watch with commercials.
So it's worth it so I can just watch Johnny Carson's from the 70s and 80s.
So help me, I will turn on the Deal or No Deal channel. And just let it run.
What is it with you and unscripted? You love the unscripted shows, don't you?
Because it's always a surprise.
Like you're like a super fan of The Bachelor or something.
No, not The Bachelor. No,
90
Below
Day.
Deck.
Oh, Below Decks.
You know, it's so funny. You know, people would think I got Paramount Plus for Star Trek, but the reality is, we showed the kids Survivor, and they love Survivor, so we got Paramount Plus because they had all the seasons of Survivor on it. You know, and The Amazing Race. And
I can't watch Mark Burnett shows anymore.
Oh, because of the Trump thing. Yeah. You know.
Can't do it.
I
love Survivor. I was addicted to Survivor for years.
Yeah, it's still, you know, it's funny because I stopped watching it and then came back to it, and it's still really entertaining. But I needed to take a break, and I think I missed like 6 or 7 cycles, if not more. But it didn't matter. It's like I didn't miss anything. So, well, Darren with the unscripted. He's loving it. He's loving it.
I'm not proud of it.
He's loving it.
You watch the cooking shows too?
I love cooking. Hey, man, the Great British Baking Show.
Chopped is great.
Really? Okay. I'm just asking. I mean, I used to watch Top Chef.
Top Gear.
I used to watch Top Gear back when it didn't suck.
God help me. I still watch Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay cracks me up.
You're going to kill someone.
I've actually eaten in Hell's Kitchen twice.
Nice.
And I got served my entire meal both times. And
it was
fascinating.
You know, it was a good mockumentary on Lifetime. It was only one season that it was good. Then it got bad. But where they parodied Big Brother, what was it called? That was a really good show. Not Big Brother, The Bachelor. They did a
Unreal?
Unreal.
Hey, you want a fun fact? In one of the seasons of Unreal, I was in the Loop group for an episode of Unreal. Yes, I'm a credited actor on Unreal.
Unreal was great that first season. And then the second season, it was rough. And then, but that first season was it wasn't quite a mockumentary, but it was more like
one of the best mockumentary series was also on HBO, and it was The Comeback.
Oh yes, the absolute best.
Yeah, absolute best. Is that on HBO Max? I hope so.
It sure is.
So good. The Comeback with Lisa Kudrow.
The comeback wasn't as good when they came back.
The second season wasn't as good, but it was still good.
It was
still good. Yeah, it was still good.
But the first season is unfreaking believable.
Fatty had a party. Had a party.
Well, that gives me the perfect opportunity to plug this week's Inglorious Trexperts, because we have a staged reading of Star Trek IV that I did 5 years ago. And playing Spock is Damian Young, who was Lisa Kudrow's husband on The Comeback. And he's great. He's super dry, super funny. It's funny because I just approved the episode today, and it's great. we've been pushing this one forever, and I was like, finally,
Mark,
it was like,
Mark,
yes,
you're pushing. Your people know their job.
Stop pushing.
Okay, so look, it's mockumentary week. We got I hope, some great movies to recommend to you.
Hopefully.
We're going to start, as always, as we curate our fantasy theme week, with Stephen Melching on Monday.
Well, I'm going to kick Monday off with a special 4:30 movie double feature. It's a double feature. Yeah, Bob Roberts. I already picked Bob Roberts, and it's fucking great, and you should watch that movie.
I'm kidding. It would have been perfect for this week.
I know. It's on my list, but I already picked it.
Okay.
So I'm doing a double bill of a short film and a featurette, or basically two featurettes of different lengths. So it'll fit nicely into that 4:30 movie slot. And these are two films that were made about 60 years apart from each other. And so I'm kicking things off with a short film from 1933, one of the very first faux documentaries, directed by none other than Louis Buñuel. And I'm talking about a film called Land Without Bread, a 30-minute black and white documentary about a fictional group of a sort of a lost, impoverished group of people living in the mountains of Spain, the Herdados. And it was a film that was so controversial when it came out that it was banned by the Spanish government for several years because of its faux portrayal of faux poverty in the mountains of Spain. And it's presented like a very matter of fact documentary about this crew that went into the mountains through this they cut this trail into the mountains and found this village and document their way of life. They're so poor they don't even know what bread is. That's why it's called Land Without Bread. And it's presented in a very dry, the presenter
moldy way.
A very what?
Dry and moldy way. And it's very funny. I remember being shown this movie in film school with very little preamble, and it's very dry, but it's an important film in film history, and I think it's an interesting way to kick off Monday. And it's, by the looks of your faces, it sounds like none of you have even heard of this movie, much less
it's
seen
one
it.
of my favorite films, Steve.
You're a liar.
Wait to talk about it.
You're a liar, Mr. Walsh.
And it's
anyone seen this movie besides Steve?
It's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube.
I don't watch YouTube because if it's not, people aren't getting paid. I only watch authorized stuff that's legit on the streaming channel.
On YouTube, go to Scream Like Men.
I want people to get that 1 cent in residuals.
The Buñuel estate from a film made almost 100 years ago.
I haven't heard of it. It sounds fascinating, to be honest. I think it's a great pick.
It's a little after half. What's the other half of it?
So the other half.
Yeah, that's true. Let's finish the other half.
Yeah, so the main course. And this is Land Without Bread, like a lot of great faux documentaries, people didn't understand that it was fake at first, which is why it was banned. So this other film, a lot of people also didn't realize it was fake, and it created a lot of outrage in its own community. And this is a film from 1995, directed by an Oscar-winning director before he won his Oscar. And it is from near the land down under, New Zealand. It's called Forgotten Silver.
I'm in a small town called Pukekohe Bay in New Zealand. Behind me is a lady called Hannah Mackenzie. About a year ago, I had a call from my mother. She said I should drop in on Auntie Hannah sometime because she was wondering if I'd be interested in a lot of old films that she had stored in a shed at the bottom of her garden.
Thank you, Steve.
I knew that was what you were going to pick, my man. I knew it.
I knew he was going to pick it too, and I'm deeply grateful because it clears the way for me now. So I'm very happy.
Oh, good. I was a little worried it might have been your pick, Mark, because I believe you saw it at Telluride. Is that right?
I did see it at Telluride, and I love that movie.
You were the one that told me about it, so I bought the DVD on Amazon. It is now out of print. You can still find the DVD on eBay and in the secondary market, but I don't know if it's readily available. Oh no, I think you can stream it on Amazon. You can rent it.
You can find it.
We love it.
You can find it. Just do a
You can
search.
find it. Look at the A-Team. You can watch it on Amazon.
So for those of you who haven't seen it, and I'm guessing that might be a lot of our listeners because it's not the easiest film to see. It was written and directed by Peter Jackson and Costa Botes. And it stars Thomas Robbins as New Zealand filmmaker Colin Mackenzie. Robbins actually played Deagle in the Lord of the Rings movie, Smeagol's cousin who is murdered for the ring. But this is a movie that tells this is a faux documentary that tells the story of this lost pioneering filmmaker Colin Mackenzie, who either accidentally or on purpose pioneered all of these great techniques of filmmaking, from the tracking shot to the close-up to sync sound to color film to feature-length films. There's a great bit in the movie where he makes the first sync sound movie and presents it with great anticipation to the crowd. But the film is performed entirely in Chinese. All of his actors are Chinese and they're speaking Chinese. So the New Zealand audience is sitting there. They can't understand a word anyone is saying. And after the novelty wears off,
But it's all
they just
perfectly
wander
sung
away.
together. Yes.
Yes, it's perfect. It's all Chinese with no subtitles, so nobody knows what's going on. So it's a very dry movie about Colin Mackenzie, and it cross cuts between the history of Colin Mackenzie and his desire to make his great magnum opus a 4-hour biblical epic, Salome.
Salome, yeah.
And then it parallels that with Peter Jackson and his documentary crew going into the jungles of New Zealand looking for the sets that might still be in the jungle, swallowed up by the foliage, and reconstructing this great film. And Jackson's documentary was, or Colin Mackenzie's film was financed by both the mafia and Joseph Stalin. So he had to film competing versions of it to please both masters.
Oh my goodness!
And it features interviews by real film critics and luminaries like Leonard Maltin, Sam Neill, and Harvey Weinstein that sort of give it an air of legitimacy. And it was originally produced for New Zealand television, but it played in a lot of film festivals following that. So Forgotten Silver, it's a very clever, dry, fake documentary about filmmaking. A lot of New Zealanders got really pissed off because they were furious that they were fooled. That how dare they make fun of our country
thing? Yeah.
Steve, you have to pronounce it the correct New Zealand way. Forgotten Silver.
Forgotten Silver. And you look at the credits, you'll see a lot of familiar names in the credits, including Richard Taylor. A lot of crew members from Lord of the Rings were part of
What's amazing is they only spent like $600,000 on that movie, but it looks so much bigger. I mean, all the recreations of Salome, and when they found the city, it's like it's like that famous story of DeMille, his sets for the original 10 Commandments, how they got buried in the desert and they found some of them or were looking for them. And so it's so well done. And, they're very smart because they don't do emulsion scratches all over the film. So, it doesn't give the game away. It doesn't seem like a faux documentary or mockumentary. It plays it completely straight. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I saw it at Telluride, that they went in and introduced it as though it was a real film.
Was Jackson there?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. If I remember, he was. I'm pretty sure he was there. It's a while ago. But for anyone who listens to the show, obviously you're film fans. If you haven't seen this movie, you'll get a real kick out of it because it has a lot of fun with the history of movies, but it's wildly entertaining. And like most good mockumentaries, doesn't overstay its welcome. Most mockumentaries, you'll notice the running times are pretty short, as evidenced by the fact that Steve gave us a double feature. And I think that's another reason why they're able, they work so well, because the joke to running time ratio is usually pretty good because they never overstay their welcome. It's a wonderful film. Great pick.
Yeah, I think it's only like 52 minutes long. It's short.
And easily the shortest Peter Jackson movie ever made.
The denouement,
Return of the King.
That's right.
Oh my.
Excellent.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, that's a really great way to start us off. And you've given us a new film to watch in the case of Land Without Bread. Because I'm a little.
Or is it a real film? Was my whole pick a faux? pick.
Oh, you're saying you could have made it up, that it doesn't exist?
It maybe, I don't know.
Well,
Maybe.
with Buñuel, you never know. Okay, so even if it exists, it may not exist. So that brings us to Tuesday and Darren Docterman.
Tuesday.
Darren,
Yes.
mock it up.
Mark. I am a fan of one specific filmmaker who has done many of such films. Christopher Guest, who was one of the stars, of course, in the late 80s with This Is Spinal Tap, directed by Meathead. And he went on to basically create his little troupe of players that he would use in the next several films that he would make. And they were all sort of in this mockumentary style. And yes, the plot is that there is a documentary being made of these people. And so these people know that they are on camera. But the great thing is that, especially in the early ones, it feels completely real. And as they, in the later movies that he makes, they become a little more stylized and a little more cartoony, in my opinion. But the first two are amazing. And I'm going to choose the second one, which is called Best in Show.
Live from Philadelphia, it's the 125th annual Mayflower Kennel Club Dog Show. 3,000 dogs competing for Best in Show. To think that in some countries these dogs are eaten.
Cookie and I work as a team. We met at this dance.
He didn't want to dance.
I got 2 left feet.
I thought he was kidding.
But I wasn't. I was born with 2 left feet.
Beatrice has been showing signs of depression.
Ever since she saw us having sex. What would you like to say to Beatrice right now?
I'm sorry you had to see that.
I've been a hairdresser about 14 years. And went to a show. I asked my ex-wife, I said, who's that? She says, that's Scott.
We got top loin, porterhouse, T-bone. We got everything.
So basically, meat.
Leslie and I have an amazing relationship. People say, oh, but he's so much older than you. And you know what? I'm the one having to push him away. We both love soup.
The bloodhound not only has a great nose, but they can talk.
What you doing, bloodhound doggy?
And he's saying, I'm ready. That's when you know he's ready for show.
That goal is that Best in Show ribbon.
Actually, poodle means puddle in German.
You want your busy bee?
Come get your busy bee. God, Harrison, she doesn't get her door, she's gonna flip out!
It's not in here. You left it at the hotel. Go to the hotel and get busy bee!
That's my favorite, the miniature schnauzer. You'd think they'd want to breed them bigger, wouldn't you, like grapefruits or watermelons?
Don't look at the fathead losers or freaks. You look at me!
He went after her like she's made out of ham.
Which, pardon?
I'm 2 for 2.
2 for 2
this week. That's not the one I thought. I thought you were going to pick a different one.
But
I love that one. I love that.
I love it. The characters in it are so good and real, yet so heartbreakingly screwed up. All of them, and it's a really funny look into the inner workings of dog shows, and I gotta imagine that what they portray is pretty close to actually what goes on, because it's just so well portrayed. It's a wonderful cast of characters. Fred Willard is in it as a play-by-play announcer. Parker Posey is amazing as half of a couple who are very uptight about their dog, and they are.
There's my busy bee.
Yeah,
there's this busy bee.
They are going through a breakdown as they deal with this dog, and the dog doesn't want to be there. And Catherine O'Hara plays a sort of a sweet Midwestern housewife who has this little terrier, and her husband is Eugene Levy. And it's the stories that go along with all these people are so real and uncomfortable that it is just, even if the dog show wasn't in it at all, it would still be really enjoyable to watch. And the secondary characters in it are absolutely amazing. I mean, let's see. We have Bob Balaban, who is the head of the dog show. He's really trying to prove something, and this is sort of his first attempt at running this show without the previous person in charge. Jane Lynch is in it as a sort of a trainer who has some dealings with the dog owner, and of course Ed Begley Jr. plays the hotel manager, who is absolutely he's playing it completely straight, but the things that he has to do are ludicrous, and it's so well done. Everyone is spot on in their performances, and Chris Guest is in it, of course, as a strange character. He has the thickest Southern accent I think I've ever heard in anybody, and he has hound dogs. But it's so fascinating and well done and fun, and much like his previous Waiting for Guffman, which is a little more too specific. And probably appeals only to people who have sort of been in that situation, I would think. This is a little more opened up for general audiences, let's say. But it's really a lot of fun, and it's a sweet movie, and it's a lot of fun to watch and see how they do it.
I adore this movie. After Spinal Tap, it's probably my favorite of that run of documentaries. Or at least I think it's the funniest, has the most laughs in it.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of a couple of the other ones that I'm sure we'll discuss later. But this movie is a delight. I can't imagine most of our audience hasn't seen it, but if you haven't seen it in a while, you got to watch it again. It always brings a smile to my face. It's so funny.
Yeah, part of the reason why I try to figure out what the hell you guys were going to pick was because what I didn't want to do was sit here pick after pick going, oh, you picked my... So I'm overjoyed that you picked Best in Show, because had you not picked Best in Show, then I suddenly would have been left in the horns of a dilemma. And I'm glad that you did, because I love it. Like you said, it's very sweet, right? Yeah. And I think it's the reason why that Waiting for Guffman really work is because you believe these characters.
You're on everybody's side.
Yes, you are. You're 100% on everybody's side. They feel like real people. You connect with them. And even though, yes, it's ridiculous in this incredibly grounded way.
Yeah.
That you kind of believe, yeah, those people are out there. It's like it's 1 degree off of reality as opposed to 10 degrees off of reality. Like by the time you get to A Mighty Wind or whatever, you're a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
But Best in Show is amazing. It's amazing.
And like you said, you really are. You don't know who to root for. You're you kind of want all the dogs to win because you just like all those people. And Fred Willard is just off the charts with his improv skills, doing his color commentary.
And Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy at the counter of the hotel, on the phone with their credit card company, and she keeps saying, "No, this is the good one." It's so heartbreaking and real, and it's so much fun to watch.
I mean, that troupe is kind of at the height of their powers then. They've worked together so much on so many shows. They can really bring it home with their improv scenes.
And it's this that the reality and comedy were perfectly balanced, and that none of the characterizations went out of the, forgive me, Ashley, out of the box in terms of believability. Everyone was completely believable to a point, but it all works together. And the later films, I think, go over that line a little bit.
I had heard a rumor years ago that one of their next film was going to be about the collector's world, and with all them playing like eccentric collectors of different things, and that sounded really funny to me. But obviously,
which one of them was going to play Rob Burnett?
I think you have to have him star as himself.
Yeah, for sure.
The latest one that I think that they did was all about sports mascots. And
I haven't watched that one.
You think it's a good idea? It's unfortunately it is kind of flat, and I was very disappointed watching.
And they did a mini series prior to that, and then there was For Your Consideration, which I wasn't a fan of.
Very disappointing.
But they had a great run from Spinal Tap through Mighty Wind.
Yeah, I mean, Mighty Wind is great. Just for the amazing quality of the songs in it. I mean,
I've said it before, and I'm going to tweet this every year until it happens. I want to manifest this. I want a Mighty Wind Christmas album. I want those groups to record Christmas songs and put out an album. God damn it! I want the Main Street Singers to do "Must Be Santa" or I don't know. Like
I love a Mighty Wind, but I just find it so self-aware in a way that Best in Show is not.
A little bit. But I think the Folksmen singing the Skeletons of Quinto would still be on the Christmas album because it's the only one that they got around to record.
Well, I'm not surprised to see the Chris DeGuest oeuvre make its appearance on Mockumentary Week. I like Ashley. I kind of had Darren pegged for Best in Show. Two-dimensional thinking. No, I mean, obviously that was, certainly the I think we'd all agree that the best of the Chris Guest films.
We had talked about Waiting for Guffman before.
And Spinal
that's
Tap.
true.
And Spinal Tap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Spinal Tap, I don't consider Chris Guest. I consider a Rob Reiner movie.
Yeah, but
and that was, we did pick that in
Music Week.
Music Week. And look, I would make an argument for Friday because I don't think, mockumentaries get any better than Spinal Tap. So we got to talk about that at some point. Spinal Tap is it's the big one. But speaking of the big one, we got Ashley with Wednesday.
What exactly?
we got big ideas, big thoughts. And he is going to tell us what his pick
the big mouth Wednesday in the middle of the week.
And we never know what to expect when it comes to Wednesday. And we're about to find out, for better or for ill, what Ashley's pick for Wednesday is.
And so it falls to me.
Yeah, it's
you guys, look, I've agonized over this choice. I knew, as I said, like I was 2 for 2. Like for me, like Forgotten Silver and Steve is like chocolate and peanut butter. It's just happening.
But no bread.
Totally. Absolutely.
No bread.
And Best in Show and Darren is like bacon with lettuce and tomato. And a little bit of mayo. Just a touch. Just a little bit.
I think it's more like poutine. It's like cheese
maybe.
And fries and gravy. Just a perfect combination. You kind of know it should all go together.
You're making me hungry. God damn it. And that is so not keto. It was hard. And I've really been torn between 2 films. I guess what I'm left with is, which of these is the most out of the box?
You shouldn't feel like you need to live up to that reputation or live down to that reputation. You should pick the film that you feel best represents Wednesday.
What does your heart tell you?
Okay, I'll tell you what it does. I'll tell you what my heart tells me. I'm going to bring up my other option for Friday, and I'll tell you like what I think Wednesday should be. It's funny because Steve, when he began his presentation, mentioned that it was a double feature, right? There was a sort of a short subject that 60 years later, and it won't be a 60-year span, led to something larger many years later, right? And then the first thing is a little bit harder to find. It's smaller. It's all of that. And that's kind of where my head is at for this week. And before I get into it, because I know what one of the objections is going to be, I want you to set the Wayback Machine to a radio show called War of the Worlds, which had people convinced that there was actually an alien invasion in New Jersey. Now, admittedly, aliens could do billions of dollars worth of improvement to New Jersey. There's no question about that. I don't think anybody, even especially people who live in New Jersey, would question that. But this film, you would never, I think, if you were sane, think, oh, wow, this could be real when you're watching it. But more of it is real than you think. The movie that I'm talking about was nominated for Best Picture. It was produced by a filmmaker who has been named before in this week by Steve. It's a movie produced in 2009 by Peter Jackson. It was inspired by a mockumentary short subject that was made in 2005 that was directed by a young filmmaker named Neil Blomkamp called Alive in Joburg. And I am referring to 2009's District 9.
Nobody comes back late at night anymore. They have more security.
The government noticed that they were moving into new areas. That's when things started to get out of hand.
They don't belong here.
They're spending so much money to keep them here when they could be spending it on other things. At least they're keeping them separate from us.
A lot of bad things started to happen.
They must just go. I don't know where they go. They must just go.
We're at the breaking point. People are living in fear.
Why are you here? Why don't you just leave? How do your weapons work?
I just want everyone watching this right now to learn from what has happened.
Yeah, I think that qualifies.
Yeah, absolutely.
We said at the very beginning, a mockumentary doesn't have to be a comedy. It's a faux documentary.
That's right.
And
that's the style.
Although District 9 is hilarious.
And it is hilarious, and it is exciting, and it's cool, and it's probably the best movie it is the best movie that Neil Blomkamp ever made. It certainly benefited from years of development on Halo, God only knows. And it's frankly awesome. It deserves all the accolades it's received. It's what's his name? Charlton Copley, right? It plays the main character. He's this almost nebbishy middle management guy who essentially gets infected. He's living in Johannesburg. They've got a population of alien refugees that are living there, and it's all about the tensions between the humans and the aliens. He becomes infected basically with the alien DNA, which gradually turns him into an alien, right? It's sort of like War of the Worlds meets
The Fly.
The Metamorphosis or The
Fly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wonderful. It's delightful. It's also about how he essentially learns empathy with these aliens who live among them. And what's fascinating about it is that it's a larger subject of Blomkamp's short film. It was about 6 minutes long from 2005 called Alive in Joburg, which was actually a movie that was kind of exploring what happened when about, I guess there were close to 60, 70,000 refugees from Zimbabwe landed in Cape Town. Back in the 70s. And what was fascinating about Alive in Joburg is they did, the interviews with the man on the street about the aliens, right? And these are the same strange creatures. but they took actual interviews with actual people about the refugees from Zimbabwe.
Right.
And they used that as footage in the film and used the aliens instead of the refugees.
Right.
And it's really fascinating. It's really worth a watch. And they take that whole idea and they make it bigger and they make it cooler and they turn it into an action movie for District 9, which never fails to be smart, never fails to be entertaining. It never kind of gives up on the conceit. It's incredibly well made. As I said, it's the best. It's easily the best movie that Neil Blomkamp ever made. Period. Even though he's certainly given it the old college try since then. And I think it's the perfect pick for Wednesday because if Wednesday is about anything, you know what? You're right, Mark. It's not really so much about being out of the box. It is Wednesday at its best is about showing us the possibilities of the week. Now, sometimes
it's the top of the roller coaster.
That's right.
You'd be going up and up and up. You get to the top, and then it's just down like a shot.
That's right. That's why we call it
pivot point. It's a pivot point. You pivot to something unexpected.
That's right.
Shakes things up. Keeps us on our toes.
Damn
exactly.
Right.
Expect the unexpected.
Damn right.
But if you're expecting the unexpected, is it expected?
That's the problem I've got, right? Which is why, should I just go straight down the middle? Should I pick waiting for government? It's what should I do? It's and again, I'll get to what my other option was when we get to Friday, and I have a pretty good idea what Mark is going to pick.
Oh, that's a great pick.
Agreed.
Great pick.
Yeah, that's a film I've been meaning to revisit. I only seen it the one time back when it came out, and I enjoyed it. But I don't own it on disc, and I haven't seen it since. And
it's quite good.
I really like the setup. I like the first 3/4 of it. It's the final act that kind of lets it down for me because
it kind of turns into an action movie.
It turns into Hollywood bullshit, and
yeah, I agree. It's
it's little
such a great setup, and it's so well
a great setup. But the short is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's a must see. So again, it's a double feature for Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll give you the double feature. I think it's fair. Steve got his double feature. You should get the double feature. Yeah. We'll give you the double feature. I think it's okay. So
it's a short subject before the main feature.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the old days. There'll be a newsreel and there'll be a cartoon and there'll be a short subject and then there'll be I think
they didn't even have those when we were going to movies as kids. So.
That's true, but still, let's pretend like they did.
Let's pretend because it was so cool. I wish they did. They may go back to that. With all the movie theaters going out of business, we may go back to the days of.
Remember when they used to have?
They'll be charging $75 a ticket.
Drive-ins are back, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows exactly.
As long as we don't have to sit through 20 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding.
All commercials.
Yeah. Well, now the ArcLight's gone, which was the only one that put a limit on commercials. Because, as much as I do love I do feel AMC's come a long way because I used to hate AMC and I like it now, but they show way too many commercials. Mm-hmm. Whereas, that was the great thing about the ArcLight was never more than 3 commercials.
Yep.
Or no commercials and actually 3 trailers.
No more than 3 trailers.
Yeah, no commercials and 3 trailers, which is funny because, every Saturday night, we do movie night with the kids. We actually do it like 4:30 movie. We do a theme month and we do a movie every Saturday. And I always show 3 trailers related to the theme before the movie. And if I try to show 4, they're like, no, it's 3. You can't show another trailer. Save it for next week. And I never can slip in that last trailer. So it's 3 trailers, popcorn, and then on to our feature presentation.
Mark, will you be my dad?
We've seen some good stuff. Seen some great movies. I never thought my kids would be huge Capricorn 1 fans, but you know what?
That's awesome.
Sure enough, they are. Time after time. Big thumbs up.
I love that your kids love Time After Time.
Oh, they love it. What's better than time travel and serial killers?
That's right. It's what's better than your kids that are watching a prostitute just get cut from.
Hey, I saw it when I was young.
Oh God!
So,
me too.
That's how I look at these things. I'm like, if I saw
11.
it, yeah. I haven't shown them Excalibur yet, and I was probably their age when I started selling.
Look, I saw it when I was young, and if kids are still kids, they're going to eat it up.
Okay, so that brings us a great pick for Wednesday. It brings us Thursday, and there's this wonderful scene in The Empire Strikes Back where
previous Wednesday pick.
They're in the carbon freezing chamber, and Luke is manipulated into the carbon freeze, and Darth Vader turns and goes, all too easy. That's how I feel right now.
Can I just point out, sir, excuse me, but Luke was not manipulated into the car. Oh, wait, maybe he was.
He was.
Because he did jump out,
But then he was able to jump, but I don't think he intended to be there. I think he just got out by the skin of his teeth.
Actually,
I don't
have
think
you
that was...
seen The Empire Strikes Back?
No, I haven't. It's a love story. Eat my shorts. Go ahead, Mark.
So much like you, Ashley, my first instinct was, oh, what am I going to do? Because I have two, but one of them's Forgotten Silver. Steve will pick that. I'll be fine. Number 2, I figured, Darren, probably Best in Show, which is true. Third, I had no idea what you're going to pick, but I knew it wouldn't be anything I would pick, so I was fine.
Andy Hall.
Really? Well, close. This is no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
I know exactly what you're thinking. Go ahead.
It was a no-brainer. I don't even have another movie I want to pick. It's Zelig.
Fresh stories roll off the press every day about Zelig.
The manifestation is neurological in
origin. The doctors claim to have the situation in hand.
Suffering from
no two can agree on a diagnosis.
I should not be surprised.
I'm convinced that it's glandular in nature, and although there's
no
evidence
of any next thing, the guy had disappeared.
I'm sure that further tests will show a problem in this.
Certain it's something he picked up from eating Mexican food.
We're just beginning to realize the dimensions of what could be the scientific medical phenomenon of the age and possibly of all time.
I'm 12 years old. I run into a synagogue. I ask the rabbi the meaning of life. He tells me the meaning of life, but he tells it to me in Hebrew. I don't understand Hebrew. Then he wants to charge me $600 for Hebrew lessons.
He was the phenomenon of the 20s.
His story reflected the nature of our civilization. All the themes of our culture were there. But when you look back on it, it was very strange.
There's a brand new dance come up the river. Just jerk your head and shake your liver. You'll do the chameleon. Make a face that's like a lizard and feel that beat down in your gizzard. You'll do the chameleon. Stick out your tongue the way the reptiles do, trying to catch a fly.
It's the Chameleon Man. The change, the Chameleon Man. Do the chameleon. So it's the story of Leonard Zelig, a man who is so insecure that wherever he goes, he becomes the person he's with. You know, and it's done perfectly as a newsreel from the 1920s and 1930s. It is pitch perfect. Gordon Willis shot it. It's a combination of vintage footage and recreations of the era, and it is hard to believe that this movie is not from the 1920s. Woody Allen is remarkable, and I have to say, Mia Farrow is phenomenal in it as Eudora Fletcher, the therapist that's brought in to work with him, because none of the doctors can figure out why it is that, if he's with an African-American man, he turns black. If he's with an Asian man, he turns Asian. If he's with an obese man, he turns fat.
And all these clips are done so well years before Forrest Gump.
Wow. Yeah. And there you go. It is done in the era of, this is 1983, I believe.
Yeah.
Where
all photochemical.
There's no CG.
Yeah.
It's all done on film. There's no digital trickery. And it is perfection in terms of the recreations of the era. There's not one misstep. And it starts very serious. Like, you think you're watching just a real documentary about the era, and then the jokes start to come in. But it never breaks. But it's so funny. I remember so fondly, I would rent that on the Warner Home Video in that plastic box from Warner Home Video. It was one of those Orion titles that Warner put out through their deal. I rented that movie. I don't know how many times I watched it. It was short. It was like 70-something minutes. Boy, that movie made me laugh. And then, of course, it would air on HBO, and then it came out on DVD, and I have it on the Twilight Time Blu-ray because I don't think you can get it on digital. And it is such a good it's amazing to me that this movie is not held in higher esteem. And yet when you watch the trailer on the Blu-ray, all it is reviews, and they're all like raves from the biggest film critics. You know, Vincent Canby, Janet Maslin, Rex Reed, Dennis Cunningham. And they're all like, this movie is a masterpiece. This movie's brilliant. This movie, you know, and it's so forgotten. Yeah. It's not forgotten silver, but it's so overlooked. You know, because of course people talk about Annie Hall and they talk about Manhattan, talk about Hannah, but Zelig is so good. It's so good, and it's so funny. I mean, when he goes to Nazi Germany and he flies across the Atlantic backwards, I mean, it's great, and it's funny because, you know, of course, Woody Allen's career was kind of made off a mockumentary, off Take the Money and Run, which is cute and has some funny bits in it, but it's not a great mockumentary. But it has some really funny scenes. It's a funny movie. But he was first finding himself as director. But Zelig is like sheer cinematic perfection. And so when we decided to do Mockumentary Week, it was like, oh, this is all too easy.
That shot of Leonard Zelig below the dais with Adolf Hitler that just goes on and on and on, where he's seeing Eudora in the audience and is like waving. It is so funny and so
like
convincing.
The Nuremberg rallies. I mean, it's so great.
But this movie, I think it gets lost in the shuffle because it came like dead center in the middle of Woody Allen's most prolific period of great films, where he's making one really strong movie after another between Annie Hall and Crimes and Misdemeanors,
but it was like after Stardust Memories and Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy, which is terrible.
I think he made it at the same time as Midsummer Night's Sex Comedy.
Right, I think you're right, because I remember, where I first read about it? In Cinefantastique, which is crazy. The first time I read about this Woody Allen movie was in Cinefantastique, but it was all about how they did the digital trickery, because it was so ambitious at the time.
The analog trickery.
The newsreel footage, but it plays like an old News on the March, or Pathé newsreel. But it's so perfect. And mostly when people do that, there's always something that pulls the string. There's always something that's not, that they miss. This just feels so of the era, and it's so perfect. And just the way that it goes from, it starts like a newsreel, it starts and starts fairly serious, and then becomes funnier and funnier, and there are more jokes. And it's so different than anything else in his, 50 plus film oeuvre. I mean, it's nothing like Annie Hall or Manhattan or Hannah or Crimes and Misdemeanors. And yet it is a little bit.
It is a love story.
It is a love story between Leonard Zelig and but just the people observing the Zelig character, and the Charleston. They name a dance after him.
Right.
The changing with the Zelig or whatever it was. And it's just a great movie. And I can't say enough good things about it. And it's sad that it's so hard to find. Now it might be, I know Amazon actually has a bunch of Woody Allen movies streaming, and HBO Max has a bunch of Woody Allen movies streaming. It might be on there, but it's very hard to find. And I treasure my Twilight Time Blu-ray because it looks great. I mean, they did a great job with the film, and it was great because knowing the show was coming up, I went back and rewatched it. And I just was like, oh my God, this is definitely as good as I remember it. This is just such a great movie.
I just want to say, look, I haven't watched it, but now it's on my list because that I, have decided after Annie Hall that I'm going to get smart on Woody Allen.
And I'll lend you the Blu-ray if you want.
I would love for you to lend me the Blu-ray. But as I was doing my research for this topic, this was the one I was like, yep, this is going to be. So I am 4 for 4 this week. I just want to point, I had a little bit of an advantage because I had a 100% chance of getting my day right.
Right. Yeah. But it's a great film, and short.
and thorough.
And thorough. Right, exactly. The Coen brothers had never done a mockumentary.
Which is astonishing because everything they do feels like a mockumentary. Mm-hmm. Don't you kind of want Raising Arizona to be a mockumentary?
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, and it's funny because they do have like sometimes narration, and I remember the trailer for Fargo starts with like Once Upon a Time. There's just like, anyway. So that's my pick for Thursday. Woody Allen's classic
Friday.
Zelig, which brings us to Friday. So many things to discuss. Darren, you said you had something in abeyance you were holding on to for Friday.
Did I?
Or maybe that was Ashley. It was Ashley.
It was Ashley.
My second choice for Wednesday.
Bob Roberts.
No, I mean, because we'd already picked it. And also I thought, like, if we hadn't already picked it, Steve would have picked it. So there you go. And the only reason why I didn't pick it for Wednesday was because I felt it was not quite as out of the box as District 9, but I love it. It's terrific.
Yes,
you can. Yes.
The Blair Witch Project.
You know what's funny about that? Yes, but no. Honestly, like, I gave serious thought to the Blair Witch Project. Like, I gave serious thought to it. But I ultimately decided that it couldn't count as a faux documentary. It was just found footage because the original filmmaker didn't try to cut it together.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Right? So I was like, okay, so that's a different thing. Kind of like Paranormal Activity, right? Like, you could say, okay, found footage is almost its own category.
Yeah.
But
that'd be a pretty bad week, though.
It would be.
You
would be hard pressed to come up with great found footage movies. You come up with a couple of. I think there's a lot to recommend Blair Witch, but it's neither here nor there. I would have said What We Do in the Shadows.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's a great pick, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's Taika Waititi, who is awesome. He's so freaking funny. It led to like a great show on FX that is like the spiritual successor, but doesn't depend on that original film. It's Jermaine Clement. It's like all the Flight of the Conchords guys. It's like it's so funny. It's so good. It's so well. I mean, it's obviously well cast. Like it's these vampires living together, and just all of they're like real roommates, except their problems are like vampire problems. And it's just played so straight, and it's so much fun. It's weirdly sweet and cool. It's all like the banality of evil. It's
by the time they got to the weird roommate Peter, who's like the Nosferatu vampire that lives in the basement, that just killed me. And the werewolf gang,
werewolves. It's like they're kind of like the Fisher Friends, not food guys. Like I love the whole chase sequence through the house, which is fantastic. It's just this amazing action. I mean, What We Do in the Shadows. Great movie, great mockumentary. It's short. There's nothing quite like it, and it's short and thorough.
And, you could watch the Boone Wells short before it. So, Steve, I got to tell you, I mean, I have to thank you because you were the one who was raving about the TV show. So, Naomi and I think when we finished Call My Agent, we were looking for the next show. And we decided to watch What We Do in the Shadows based on your recommendation. And, man, we were not disappointed. That show is so freaking good. That is so funny. Oh, my God. And the episode that everyone was talking about where from the second season where Jackie Daytona. Oh, my God.
Yes. Oh, my God. Where he's the bartender.
God.
So great.
So great. That show is so inspired.
The Vampire Council made up of all these actors that have played famous vampires.
Oh, it's so
good.
It's so inspired. It's so smart and so funny. And just love it. Can't wait for season 3. Okay, so other suggestions, Darren? Anything on your mind?
I wouldn't recommend any of the later Chris Guest movies, just because they, like I said before, they're kind of they don't ring true. And honestly, I had a tough time thinking of mockumentaries for this one.
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, I got a whole list, baby.
If we were going to repeat anything, I still feel like Spinal Tap. It's like not having Airplane. If you're going to do.
Well, yeah, this is Spinal Tap is it's the pinnacle of this art form.
It is the apex, and it is also one of the funniest movies ever made.
It's the one that repeating a week is repeating a pick.
The what?
We can do it if we want
We've
to.
done it from time to time.
Right, like that time we accidentally
we're in
picked
the
the
third
Terminator
season.
twice for Friday.
Yeah, no, but there was like 1 or 2 times where we did repeat a movie, and like I feel like this movie is so it defines the form, it defines the genre. It when you think of mockumentaries, the first thing that comes to mind is this Final Time. But then there's also stuff like Borat. The first Borat,
or the Ali G movie.
Yeah.
But I think the first Borat, even though if he hadn't made the sequel, Borat had sort of fallen out of the zeitgeist for many years. But when it came out, I mean, everyone was obsessed with Borat. I mean, I was so sick of everyone doing their impersonations of Borat, But that's a very smart and a very funny movie. I'm not as enamored with the second one as a lot of people are, but boy, that first movie is really really funny.
It wore out on me after about a half hour, to be honest. But
so if it were a short subject,
I would be fine.
If it was a Louis Buñuel short,
right?
Did Louis Buñuel wear shorts?
If it were The Land Without Bread in Joburg, it would have been all over.
So another film that I was seriously considering, but I really wanted to watch it again before I picked it, and it's not readily available. It's a movie that I think it came out after Spinal Tap. Like Spinal Tap was, I think, the film that kicked off the modern era of mockumentary films. But I'm thinking of another one that was very popular when it came out, and it spawned several sequels. I only saw one of the sequels. It wasn't nearly as good. But I'm talking about The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Right.
Which I remember seeing it 2 or 3 times in the theater and thinking it was very funny and really wanting to revisit it. And, like I said, it was very popular when it came out.
Super popular. I never saw it. It's the one where they find the Coke bottle.
Yeah, a bushman, basically an African bushman, finds a Coke bottle that was tossed out of an airplane and wants to take it to the edge of the world and throw it off the edge of the world. And there
was a sequel too, The Gods Must Be Angry. I mean, that was how popular that movie was.
There were 3 sequels, I think. Man. I only ever saw the first sequel, and it wasn't
Guns to the Magnificent Seven. Oh wait, wrong one.
The Guns of the Gods Must Be Crazy. The Guns Must Be Crazy.
The
Good, the bad, and the
ride.
crazy. The Gods Must Be Crazy and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Gods Must Be Cranky.
I would also mention, I mean, I don't love this movie, but it's worth mentioning. Steve, I think we saw it at Sitges together. Behind the Mask, Leslie Jordan.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's about a serial killer. It's a mockumentary about a Freddy-like serial killer, as though he was a real. And it's smart and well done. I think,
Does Henry Portrait a serial killer count as that? Or no?
No.
Maybe
I
not.
don't think it.
It's not really that style. Yeah.
I mean, there's Man Bites Dog. I think that was more of a.
Plus, Michael Rooker has enough attention from James Gunn. He doesn't need our love.
That's right. That's right.
Lest we forget, from 1979.
Alien.
Star Trek The Motion Picture.
No.
It was like being there in the 23rd century.
Yeah.
Albert Brooks.
You mean like being there with like Peter Sellers in the 23rd century?
That was also 1979, actually.
That's right.
Wait, Darren was talking. Darren was talking.
Go ahead, Darren.
I believe
Darren has the floor.
Albert Brooks, Real Life.
Oh, yeah.
It's on my list. I've never seen it, and I really want to because I love Albert Brooks.
That's funny. It's like the one Albert Brooks movie I never saw either.
Oh, my God. It's
Was it a movie or a series?
No, it's a movie.
The movie, okay.
Yeah.
American Family, that was the series, right? Wasn't that a mockumentary
on PBS.
series?
It's PBS.
Yeah.
It's a very famous.
Real Life was a parody of American Family, is that right? Yeah.
Yes. It's extremely well done and really disturbing at the same time. But it's hilarious. Albert Brooks is thrown in. Well, he throws himself into the midst of this situation with covering a real life family, and he has brand new technology to help accomplish it, which is the most ludicrous helmets that have built-in cameras, and they look like walking 2001 pods as they follow the family around. Like
remember that?
Well, yeah,
the Spock hat,
the Spock helmet. Yeah, even worse than that. It's hilarious. You need to see it. It's it's one of those Albert Brooks movies that people don't remember. I nearly didn't remember it.
Yeah, because Criterion put out Defending Your Life recently.
Mm-hmm.
They put Lost in America a couple years ago. Modern Romance came out on the Indicator label in UK, which is a wonderful Albert Brooks film.
Yeah.
But Mother obviously has been out for a while. The Muse,
right?
But I haven't seen Real Life. I think it's hard to find.
It is, but it's out there because I remember finding it on a streaming service somewhere.
Mm. Well, it could be on Amazon. We just can't find it on Amazon. That's probably
right. Who can find anything in the Amazon?
Well, as far as more recent films go, there's a couple by the Lonely Island guys, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping,
right?
About the young pop star, and 7 Days in Hell, about the tennis tournament that just keeps going and going and going. It was done for HBO Sports.
That wasn't the sequel to 7 Days in May, where there's another coup d'etat against the president. No.
And then, of course, there's one starring the great Werner Herzog, Incident at Loch Ness, where they are searching for the Loch Ness Monster.
Mm.
Does Grizzly Man count?
And Werner Herzog plays the Loch Ness Monster?
And we're forgetting a big one. There's a big one.
What?
The Ruddles.
Who's summoned a big one?
The Ruddles. All You Need Is Cash.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
That is a big
Beatles
one.
parody.
Yeah.
It was an Eric Idle.
We had this conversation for Music Week. But I remember it because Darren, I talked about how I don't really like the Ruddles.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not very good.
Oh, somebody said they liked it. I'm not a big fan of the Ruddles.
But apparently, Paul loved it. At least that's what Eric Idle says.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he did.
Maybe he did.
Yeah, he was good friends with George Harrison, so maybe
absolutely.
They were being polite.
Sure, why not?
And there was this crazy man, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Is that like
beauty pageant?
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't see this one, but it looked interesting. CSA, the Confederate States of America, which was a fake history documentary about what happened if the South won the Civil War.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
You mean
it was called the Republican National Convention?
You mean the War of Northern Aggression?
Yes.
And wasn't there like
Cafe?
Apollo 12 or something? Atomic Cafe is not a mockumentary.
No.
I saw that on some list somewhere where they said it's one of the. It's not a. It's a documentary about all the atomic
movies.
About all these movies from the 50s and the 40s. You know, the Duck and Cover, and it's just sort of a combination of. It's a great. I love Atomic Cafe. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Another 1982 classic, but
but those are all real. Those are all real.
They're all real. Exactly. It's not a mockumentary. It's just telling it. It's so. You know, we look through it and it's so unrecognizable and so crazy, and you know the fear and the paranoia and you know the stuff that the government was creating these these things for the schools that they would watch. I mean, I think we're at the tail end of that. We saw a couple of those probably, but Indiana Jones in the fridge. But it's not really a mockumentary. It's kind of like a very arch documentary. You know, in the way like Electric Boogaloo is.
Right.
Don't you think?
The documentary Electric Boogaloo.
Right. Exactly. But Steve, I mean, do you disagree with that, or what do you think?
I have not seen all of Atomic Cafe, so I can't. I can't.
Oh, I have the Blu-ray. You want to borrow it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lending a lot of Blu-rays this week.
Yeah, I know. Well, is the captain here?
Oh my!
Is Spock here? I'll lend you my Blu-ray.
And there was Tanner 88. Although I guess that was more of a TV series. Miniseries.
Yeah. Which I think Robert Altman said was the best thing he ever did, which I don't agree with.
And they made a sequel to it, didn't they? They made a sequel to
Tanner 92?
Or 96, something, 92 or 96.
1999?
Tanner is blown out of orbit and begins a journey through the cosmos.
So, well, we was watching the Atomic Cafe, too close to the nuclear waste. Oh my God!
Well, I don't know. For me, Friday is kind of boiling down to a race between acknowledging one of the all-time classics again, Spinal Tap, What We Do in the Shadows, I think, is a strong pick. Borat, the first Borat, is a strong pick. And I'd argue, well, we kind of decided Blair Witch Project is more of a found footage than a documentary, but I would argue it is. I would consider it a faux documentary.
And let's not forget Take the Money and Run, the Woody Allen first narrative film. Is that a gub? It says gub.
It definitely says gub.
It says gun. Come over here. Does that say gun or gub? No, I think it's a really fun movie, but it's not doesn't belong in this week. So the question is, those are all good. I think it should be either What We Do in the Shadows or Spinal Tap.
It has to be Spinal Tap. There's just no, there's nothing out there.
It's like it's Friday. It's like, yes, it was picked before, but it was picked as a main day. It was picked as a Wednesday. So
yeah,
I think you should smell the glove and decide.
Yes, right.
I mean, and Spinal Tap, its influence continues to be felt. I mean, they've put out, I think, 2 albums since then. They've toured multiple times, and they've made appearances on other shows.
It is required watching on all of these tour buses for all these rock groups that go across the country.
Oh,
they watch it all the time.
The last live concert I saw before the lockdown was Derek Smalls in concert, his solo tour, Smalls Change, and it was pretty damn funny. The performance needed some polish. It felt like they had maybe rehearsed for a day or two, but it was still a lot of fun.
I think we have to keep in mind that we put together a week of perfect 10s. But Spinal Tap goes to 11.
That's the best argument for Spinal Tap on Friday that I've heard, frankly.
Spinal Tap?
Because when you get to Friday, you want one more. You just want to crank it up a little bit more. And
push over the cliff.
And it's in D, the saddest of all keys.
I'm just as God made me, sir.
Puppet show. 2 words, puppet show. But let's face it, it got Patrick McNee in it. It got June Chadwick in it. It got
Billy Crystal.
It got Billy Crystal. I mean, it got
Bruno Kirby.
Oh
Kirby.
My God. To have loved and lost like Frank has. I mean, it's so. I mean, even I think on that ridiculous Criterion black Laserdisc, there was like 40 minutes of deleted scenes. Yeah. And just the fact that they're deleted scenes are funnier than virtually any other movie ever released. It deserves the recognition just for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy action figures of these guys, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and Rob Reiner is so great. And it kicked off a series of films for him with Stand By Me, with Few Good Men, with Renee Met Sally. I mean, Princess Bride, he had a run of movies that few directors have ever equaled. Yeah. And it started with Spinal Tap. And it's brilliant. And I mean, I have no problem bringing it back to the show. Especially that was a first season pick, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And, Spinal Tap is one of those movies that never fails to cheer me up. I probably watch it at least once a year. It never fails. I think the first time I saw it was, this kind of adds to the mystique of it. Is it real or not? 'Cause I saw it back in probably 85. I didn't see it in the theater. My friend had a shitty VHS tape of it that we watched.
That's how to watch it, though.
Yeah,
that's how to watch it.
Yeah, so it felt like it was this underground movie about this real thing, and I'd never heard of Spinal Tap, but I wasn't that much into the rock and roll in high school. I was like being anti-establishment.
Not them in general, just the whole rock and roll.
Whole rock and roll thing. And is this real? Like, I think I recognize that guy from another movie, or but it was a little hard to tell in crappy 3rd generation VHS tape in 1985.
Plus, Tony Handra just died recently. Yeah. Who's so funny is their manager. It's not like Boston's a big college town. I mean, that movie. It's what Steve said. We watch a lot of our favorite movies again and again and again. But every time I watch Spinal Tap, I still laugh out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, there are very few comedies, that I can say that about. That, when I watch like the 10th or 15th or 40th time, that I still love them, but that I still laughed at, hard. And Spinal Tap, I still laugh.
No, not an exit. Not an exit. Well, we don't want an exit.
And how many times, and how many times have we been at Comic-Con or at a convention center and been lost underneath
totally.
Serpentining through tunnels going, "Hello, Cleveland!
Rock and roll!"
The Stonehenge sequence may be one of the funniest sequences in the history of movies. Funniest 5-10 minutes in any movie. I mean, it's so funny.
Possibly rivaled by Rock and Roll Creation when they're trying to get Derek out of his pod that won't open. Right. With the stagehand with a hammer.
and it does open just as the other two close.
That's brilliant. And that's all. I mean, the whole 11 inches, 11 feet, and Stonehenge is in danger of being crushed by a dwarf. I mean, it makes me laugh just thinking about it. So I think, Ashley, what do you think? Spinal Tap?
I absolutely think Spinal Tap.
Okay. So let it be
100% in favor of Spinal Tap.
Through 2 decades, 17 classic albums, countless unforgettable concert triumphs, they changed the face of British rock music forever. And the best part is, they're back.
Spinal Tap, get out there, you're on!
Now, they're on the verge of the greatest comeback of all time.
Rock and roll! No Cleveland!
This is their moment.
Go right straight through this door here, down the hall. Yeah. Turn right.
Their time has come.
Rock and roll!
Any minute now. Any second.
Hello, stage. I think we're lost. A little jog there, about 30 feet. Jog to the left.
Don't have time for that. Get ready. Get set.
Direct from hell, Spinal Tap!
Heavy metal's deep. You can get stuff out of it.
My name is Marty DeBerge. I'm a filmmaker.
One man dares to probe the hidden secrets.
I was just pointing at it.
Well, don't point even.
Don't even point?
No, it can't be played. Never. I mean,
can I look at it?
One man dares to hear the shocking answers.
It's tragic, really. He exploded on stage.
To questions like, is the world really ready for Spinal Tap?
You put a greased, naked woman
Yes.
on all fours
Yes.
with a dog collar
With a
around
dog
her
collar.
neck and a leash.
And a leash.
And pushing a black glove in her face to sniff it. You don't find that offensive?
No,
You don't
no.
find that sexist?
Well, you should have
Listen
seen
to
the
me.
cover they wanted to do.
Get me out!
After years of vicious gossip,
The official explanation was he choked on vomit. Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was.
years of ugly rumors,
It's a passing thing. This is a fact.
And you are Spinal Tap?
Oh, what's going on here? Hi.
now the vicious, ugly truth can be told.
Well, I'm sure I'd feel much worse if I weren't under such heavy sedation.
Tap into America!
From the place where eardrums go to die, come the living legends of rock and roll lunacy. This is Spinal Tap.
You know, it's like Hemingway said, remember them as they were and write them off.
Okay. So this is a very entertaining week. You wouldn't know it because we're starting with Louis Buñuel, Steve Milton.
With Spanish surrealist Louis Buñuel's short Land Without Bread, paired with Peter Jackson and Costa Boats' very dry faux film documentary, Forgotten Silver.
Followed on Tuesday, Darren Docterman.
By Best in Show, which has extra bread.
On Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller, it's
Double feature of Neil Blomkamp's 2005 short Alive in Joburg, followed by his Academy Award nominated 2009 feature-length District 9.
On Thursday, it's genius auteur Woody Allen's Zelig. And on Friday, it's Rob Reiner. Well, no, it's not Rob Reiner. It's Marty DeBerge's. This is Spinal Tap. What a week. What a week. Woo!
I
That's
think we've
fun
all,
stuff.
as I hoped, I think we've all learned a little something about dogs, about aliens, about
bread,
fads in the 30s, and about rock and roll.
And Los Silva.
Well, this is a great week. Well, thank you as always. It's always a pleasure to be here on the 430 movie with you guys. And we'll be back next Friday with an all new theme week. So make sure to tune in. You can follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. It helps bring new people to the show. You can watch the video versions of the 430 movie on the free Electric Now streaming app. So download that today from your favorite app store. And while you're at it, check out some of our other sister podcasts like Steve and Ashley as they take you through the world of animation and cartoons in the very exciting and very animated Cartoon Bar Room. You can also find out what they're drinking. And there's also the Glorious Trexperts with Darren and myself as we talk about I was going to say the latest and greatest, but we don't talk about that. We talk about everything from across the Star Trek universe as well.
Everything old is new again.
The new Trexperts Briefing Room, where we curate significant episodes, audio commentaries of significant episodes of Star Trek throughout its long history. And of course, the best movies never made from Steven Scarlatta and Josh Miller, where they talk about movies that never saw the light of a projector bulb. All these shows and more are available on Electric Now or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at 430 Movie Podcast or on Facebook at 430 Movie. And of course, now on Instagram at the 430 Movie, where there's some really great, obscure, cool photography from some of the movies we've talked about. So on behalf of Darren, Steve, Ashley, and myself, we want to thank our wonderful sound engineer, Bill Ritter, and the great Mark Rivera, who's been pitching in and making us sound so good, even in the midst of the Zoom. And our producers, Zach Ragetz and Peter Holmstrom, as well as Natalie Biscali. So until next week, on behalf of all of us, to all of you, Eyewitness News starts now.
This show was produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production.